The internet is full of wonders. From shopping to social media, it feels like everything is just a click away. But behind the safe and friendly websites we use every day, there's another side of the internet that most people never see. A darker side. Websites so disturbing and unsettling that once you know their stories, you'll never forget them. These aren't just creepy myths or ghost stories. They are real sites. Some existed on the open web, others thrived in hidden corners of the dark web, and each one left behind a trail of fear, controversy, and shock. In this video, we're going to explore the top 7 most disturbing websites ever. From Rotten.com, the first site to horrify internet users with graphic images, to BestGore, which pushed shock content to a whole new level. From liveleak, where real violence and death were broadcast uncensored, to Silk Road, the infamous dark web black market that changed online crime forever. We'll also uncover chilling communities like suicide forums, where people encouraged each other to end their lives, and the disturbing Blue Whale Challenge, which trapped teenagers in a deadly online game. Even the Cannibal Café, where one man's horrifying fantasy turned into a real-life crime. And finally, we'll talk about the legend of Red Rooms, the ultimate internet horror story that still haunts people's imagination. These websites are more than just disturbing. They reveal the darkest parts of human nature and how far the internet can go when there are no rules. But before we dive in, here's the question. Why do these sites attract so much attention? Why do people feel the urge to click even when they know they'll regret what they see? The answer is curiosity. The internet has always been a mirror of human desire. And while most of us use it for normal things, there will always be a corner for the forbidden. This documentary-style video will guide you through these 7 disturbing websites, their origins, their shocking impact, and the lasting scars they left on internet culture. Some of these sites are gone forever. Some still survive in fragments. But all of them prove one thing: that the internet is not always a safe place. So if you think you can handle it, join me as we count down the top 7 most disturbing websites on the internet. Rotten.com, the internet's first disturbing website. The internet in the late 1990s was still young. Websites were simple, text-based, and slow. But then came a site that would change how people saw the online world forever. Its name was Rotten.com. Rotten wasn't created for fun or entertainment. It was built to shock, and it did exactly that. The homepage was plain, just a white background and simple links. But behind those links were disturbing images that no one expected to see online. Car crashes, autopsies, medical deformities, and photos of death that were usually hidden away from the public. For curious internet users, Rotten.com became a secret place. People whispered about it in chat rooms. Teenagers dared their friends to open it. And once you saw it, you could never forget it. But Rotten wasn't just about gore. It became a cultural symbol. For some, it was freedom of information, the idea that the internet had no limits. For others, it was proof that the internet was becoming dangerous. At the time, mainstream media had no way to stop it. There was no YouTube, no TikTok, no Facebook. The internet was still the Wild West. And Rotten.com became its dark corner. The site gained so much attention that it even entered pop culture. Teachers warned students about it. Parents tried to block it. And news channels reported it as an example of how disturbing the internet could be. But the people behind Rotten.com claimed it wasn't about shock for fun. They said it was about showing reality, the harsh truth of accidents, death, and the fragility of life. Of course, most people didn't see it that way. They saw it as pure horror. And for many, their first encounter with Rotten.com became a digital trauma. Over the years, Rotten slowly lost its power. The internet grew. More shocking websites came online. And what was once unique became less shocking. By the mid-2000s, Rotten.com faded away. But its legacy didn't. Even today, if you ask people who grew up with the early internet, they'll remember Rotten.com. It was more than just a website. It was a symbol of the dark side of human curiosity. Rotten.com proved one thing: The internet is not just a tool for connection and knowledge. It can also open doors to things most of us were never meant to see. And once that door is open, it can never be closed. BestGore.com, the website that crossed into real crime. The internet has always had a dark side. But in 2008, a new site appeared that took things much further. It was called BestGore.com. Unlike Rotten.com, which mostly showed still photos, BestGore was about videos. Uncensored, raw, and disturbing videos. From car accidents and violent fights, to executions and war footage. BestGore's founder, Mark Marek, defended the site by saying it showed reality. That people should see the truth of violence and the consequences of war. But to millions, it was simply horror. And for others, it became addictive. The site became infamous because it didn't blur, censor, or hide anything. It showed the kind of images that news channels and social media would never allow. Curiosity drove people there. And once they saw it, they could never forget it. But BestGore wasn't just another disturbing website. It became tied to a real murder case. In 2012, a shocking video appeared on BestGore. It showed the murder and dismemberment of a young man named Jun Lin in Canada. The killer was Luca Magnotta, a man who craved internet attention. And BestGore users were among the first to watch and spread the video. This case turned BestGore from an underground site into international news. Police began investigating. Governments debated whether such websites should even exist. And Mark Marek, the site's creator, was arrested for corrupting morals. The trial made headlines worldwide. It was proof that disturbing websites weren't just shocking curiosities anymore. They could be connected to real crimes, real victims, and real consequences. Despite the controversy, BestGore stayed online for years. Its supporters argued it exposed the truth. Its critics said it traumatized people and gave criminals a stage. By the late 2010s, the site started to lose power. New laws, internet censorship, and changing culture made it harder to survive. Finally, in 2020, BestGore officially shut down. But even today, its name carries weight. For those who saw it, BestGore was unforgettable. It showed the darkest side of reality. And it proved how dangerous curiosity on the internet can be. BestGore's story is not just about shock value. It's about the line between truth and horror, about how much reality people should really see, and about how one website's content became part of a real-life murder investigation. Some call it freedom of information. Others call it digital evil. But one thing is certain. BestGore will always be remembered as one of the most disturbing websites in internet history. Liveleak.com, the internet's raw reality. When YouTube was rising as a place for entertainment, another site was building a reputation for the opposite. It wasn't about music, comedy, or vlogs. It was about raw, uncensored reality. That site was liveleak.com. Launched in 2006, LiveLeak promised something different. It wasn't about shock for the sake of shock, like Rotten or BestGore. Instead, the founders claimed it was about showing the world as it truly is. Unfiltered, unedited, and uncensored. But what that meant was disturbing. On LiveLeak, you could find videos of war zones straight from soldiers' cameras. Executions that governments tried to hide. Police shootings, accidents, and events that mainstream media would never broadcast. For some, this was journalism without limits. For others, it was nightmare fuel. LiveLeak became truly infamous during the Iraq War. When shocking war footage appeared online, YouTube and news networks removed it instantly. But LiveLeak allowed it to stay. And suddenly, millions flocked to the site to see what was really happening on the battlefield. This made LiveLeak both famous and feared. Governments accused it of spreading propaganda. Critics said it was exploiting death for clicks, but supporters defended it, saying the public had a right to know the truth. Over time, LiveLeak hosted all kinds of disturbing content, from terrorist execution videos, to brutal street fights, to graphic accidents caught on camera. It became the modern version of Rotten.com, but with the speed and reach of the new internet era. The site constantly walked a thin line. Was it exposing truth, or simply profiting from pain. In 2008, liveleak even pulled a controversial video after its staff received death threats. It proved that hosting such content wasn't just disturbing, it was dangerous. For years, liveleak remained a dark legend of the internet. People would say, if you want to see what really happened, check liveleak. But by the late 2010s, things began to change. New rules on online content, copyright pressure, and evolving culture made it harder for liveleak to survive. Finally, in 2021, the site officially shut down. It was replaced by a much softer platform, signaling the end of an era. Yet, even after its closure, liveleak's name carries weight. For those who visited, it was unforgettable. The site left millions of viewers disturbed, scarred, or simply more aware of how brutal reality can be. Liveleak was never just another video site. It was a reminder that the internet can show us truths we were never meant to see. And once you see them, you can never unsee them. Suicide forums and the Blue Whale Challenge. Dark psychology of the internet. The dark side of the internet isn't always about gore or violence. Sometimes it's about something even more disturbing. The mind. One of the most troubling parts of the online world has been suicide forums. These are communities where people gather not to find hope, but to discuss despair. In these forums, strangers share methods of self-harm. They talk openly about ending their lives. Some even encourage each other to do it. For vulnerable people searching for help, these spaces can be deadly traps. Authorities and psychologists have long warned that such communities can push depressed people over the edge. And, sadly, there are countless real cases where these forums have been linked to actual suicides. But the internet's disturbing influence doesn't stop there. In the mid-2010s, another horrifying phenomenon spread worldwide. It was called the Blue Whale Challenge. At first, it seemed like just another online game. But it was anything but harmless. The game reportedly consisted of 50 challenges over 50 days. It started small. Tasks like watching horror movies or waking up at strange hours of the night. But as the days went on, the challenges grew darker. Self-harm, isolation, and finally, on the last day, the challenge to take your own life. This so-called game spread through secret groups, forums, and even social media. Teenagers were the main targets. And tragically, in countries like Russia, India, and others, multiple deaths were linked to the Blue Whale Challenge. Police investigations revealed that behind the game were individuals, often called curators, who manipulated vulnerable players. They pressured them with threats, emotional blackmail, and psychological control. The case became international news. Governments scrambled to ban the challenge. Schools issued warnings. Parents were terrified. While some experts argue that the scale of the Blue Whale Challenge was exaggerated by the media, there's no denying that real lives were lost. And it highlighted one chilling truth. The internet can not only disturb with what it shows, but also with what it convinces people to do. Suicide forums and challenges like Blue Whale prove that the web doesn't need gore to be dangerous. It can weaponize loneliness, depression, and fear. It can turn the vulnerable into victims. And it can blur the line between online games and real-life consequences. Even today, new variations of these challenges appear from time to time, spreading through hidden communities. And authorities continue to battle against them. The disturbing lesson is clear. Sometimes, the scariest things online aren't the images you see. They're the ideas planted in your mind. And once those ideas take root, they can be far more deadly than any horror website. Cannibal Café, the website that turned horror into reality. When people think of disturbing websites, most imagine shocking images or violent videos. But the Cannibal Café was something different. It wasn't about gore photos or war footage. It was about fantasy, dark, twisted fantasies that sometimes spilled into real life. The Cannibal Café was an online forum in the late 1990s and early 2000s. At first glance, it looked like any other discussion board. But its topics weren't normal. Members gathered there to talk about one of the most disturbing subjects imaginable. Some users claimed it was just roleplay, stories, jokes, and bizarre imagination. But others weren't pretending. They were serious. And that's what made the site terrifying. The most infamous case connected to the Cannibal Café happened in Germany in 2001. A man named Armin Meiwes posted on the forum, searching for someone willing to be killed and eaten. Unbelievably, another man named Bernd Brandis responded. And this was no hoax. The two met in real life, and what followed became one of the most disturbing true crimes of the internet age. Meiwes killed Brandis with his full consent, and then actually ate parts of his body. The entire crime shocked the world. Police discovered it after videos and chats from the Cannibal Café were recovered. And suddenly, the forum wasn't just a bizarre corner of the web, it was a crime scene. The case raised chilling questions. If someone volunteers to be a victim, is it still murder? Should the internet allow communities that encourage such extreme fantasies? And how much responsibility does a website hold for its users' actions? Armin Meiwes was arrested and sentenced to life in prison. The Cannibal Café quickly shut down after the publicity, but its legacy remains. The forum showed that disturbing websites aren't always about shocking images. Sometimes they're about creating spaces where dark desires connect. And when the wrong people meet in those spaces, fantasy can become reality. Today, the Cannibal Café is remembered as one of the most infamous forums in internet history. Not because millions visited it, but because one real-life crime turned it into a legend of horror. The internet is full of strange communities. Most of them are harmless. But the Cannibal Café proved that sometimes online words can lead to real-world blood. It was a chilling reminder that the darkest corners of the web aren't just disturbing. They can be deadly. Silk Road, the dark web's black market empire. When most people hear the term dark web, the first name that comes to mind is Silk Road. Launched in 2011 by a man known as Ross Ulbricht, or by his online alias, Dread Pirate Roberts. Silk Road wasn't just a website, it was an entire underground marketplace. But unlike Amazon or eBay, this marketplace didn't sell electronics or clothes. It sold things people weren't supposed to buy online: drugs, fake IDs, hacking tools, and illegal services. The Silk Road operated on the Tor network, a hidden part of the internet where users stay anonymous. Payments were made with Bitcoin, which at the time was new and nearly untraceable. This combination made Silk Road incredibly powerful. Anyone with a Tor browser and cryptocurrency could shop for illegal goods delivered right to their doorstep. Within months, Silk Road exploded in popularity. Thousands of vendors, millions of dollars in transactions, and a community that treated it like the future of crime. But with that growth came attention. Governments around the world started to notice. The FBI, DEA, and Interpol all began investigating. And while many users thought they were safe behind the mask of Tor and Bitcoin, law enforcement was quietly watching. In 2013, the Silk Road finally collapsed. Ross Ulbricht was tracked down and arrested in a public library in San Francisco. His laptop was open at the time, giving investigators the evidence they needed. When the site was shut down, authorities seized millions of dollars in Bitcoin. It was one of the biggest operations against online crime ever seen. But even with the original Silk Road gone, its story didn't end. Copycat marketplaces appeared almost immediately. Silk Road 2.0, Alphabet, and many others. Each claimed to carry on the legacy. Some grew even bigger than the original. But one by one, most were shut down too. The Silk Road case became a turning point in internet history. It showed that the dark web could be used to build massive underground economies. It also proved that no one is truly untouchable online. Not even the so-called Dread Pirate Roberts. Today, Ross Ulbricht is serving a life sentence in prison. Bitcoin has gone mainstream, and the Silk Road remains a symbol of both the power and danger of the dark web. For some, it was freedom, a way to bypass government control. For others, it was pure criminal chaos. Either way, the Silk Road proved that the internet isn't just a tool for knowledge or connection. It can also be a global black market. And once that door opened, the world could never look at the web the same way again. Red Rooms, dark web's most terrifying myth. Among all the disturbing stories about the dark web, one rumor stands above the rest. A legend whispered in forums and chat rooms. A place so horrifying that most hope it doesn't really exist. They call it the Red Room. The idea is simple but terrifying. A secret live stream hidden deep in the dark web. Inside, victims are tortured, abused, or even killed, while anonymous viewers watch. Some versions of the story say viewers can pay in Bitcoin to decide what happens next, as if suffering had become entertainment. It sounds like a nightmare. But is it real? For years, the internet has debated the existence of red rooms. Some claim they've seen links or screenshots. Others swear they stumbled across hidden pages. But every time someone digs deeper, the evidence falls apart. Cybersecurity experts say the idea is almost impossible. Streaming live video in secret while taking payments from viewers would require huge resources. Governments and law enforcement would notice. No verified proof has ever surfaced, yet the legend refuses to die. Why? Because the idea feels believable. The dark web already hosts disturbing material, illegal markets, hacking services, and dangerous communities. So people wonder, if those exist, why not red rooms? In 2015, the rumor exploded again when fake YouTube videos and articles claimed proof. Screenshots circulated of hidden pages, but all were debunked as hoaxes. Still, the fear remained. Because whether or not red rooms are real, the possibility is enough to disturb. Some experts suggest red rooms are nothing more than scams. Hackers lure curious people with promises of access, demand Bitcoin payments, and then disappear without showing anything. In this way, the myth itself becomes profitable. But others believe there may be rare, short-lived attempts. Streams that happen for minutes before being shut down. Impossible to confirm. Impossible to trace. The truth is this: no red room has ever been proven to exist, and maybe that's for the best. But the legend continues to haunt the internet. Because sometimes, the most disturbing stories don't need to be real to terrify us. The Red Room has become the ultimate digital urban legend, a story that captures the darkest fears of what the internet could hide. Whether it's pure myth, or whether someone somewhere has actually tried it, the Red Room remains one of the most chilling parts of dark web folklore. And in some ways, that uncertainty makes it even scarier.